we're going to go through all these events in starting with the next lessons. Now it's just the time lapse. The first thing that happened, which was actually the most important, was that Hitler was appointed Chancellor on 30th of January 1933. Just to confirm with you that you can hear me.
Yes.
Good. Good.
Yeah.
Good, perfect. So he was appointed Chancellor. We're going to talk a little bit more about this in the next lesson. There were only 3 Nazis in the government, if you remember, Shay, from last lesson. We discussed about that. From 12 positions, only 3 were Nazis, so quite a small number for a party which was in majority. But Hindenburg wanted to keep everything under certain control. Okay, so he was still the leader of all. He was still the master of puppets. He was still in charge with everything, and he had the power constitutionally to appoint Hitler and remove Hitler, obviously. So that was the first move. This is actually a chronicle, a short chronicle of how you create a dictatorship. In one, let's call it how Hitler created a dictatorship in 1.5 years. Okay. 27th of February 1933, a famous moment because this was attributed to the communists and started the beginning of the end for communists. Of course, Hitler blamed this fire on the communists. We're going to talk about the circumstances of this just 2 slides or something like that. It is a very important topic. It's a recurrent topic coming again and again into the exam, the Reichstag fire. Also, you can see we're going to have a PowerPoint with sources about Reichstag fire. So I'm going to give you from time to time, you'll see PowerPoints with the tables and sources and stuff, just to kind of revise when the time will come. Okay, so the time will come for you to revise, and this will be very helpful. So probably, of course, it was a certainty when it was presented by Hitler, but probably started by a Dutch communist, van der Lubbe, acting alone. We're going to talk about that. Van der Lubbe was a little bit unstable, let's put it this way, kind of in need for some psychiatric attention and stuff like that. But he didn't understand exactly what happened to him. He acknowledged that he did that, and so he was executed. Unfortunately, Hitler blamed it on the Communist Party. Hitler didn't want to kill van der Lubbe or, blame one guy. He wanted to actually benefit from this Reichstag fire, and actually he benefited a lot. That's a big stone in the foundation of Hitler becoming the dictator, because it was an emotional view for many of the Germans, and they jumped in Hitler's boat immediately. In a way, I like to associate this with what happened in my country in 1968 during the Spring Prague, when Czechoslovakia was invaded by the Warsaw Pact forces, apart from Romania. Romania was not invited to participate. Romania condemned that and was openly against the Russians for attacking, friend country, a communist friend country. Anyway, coming back to this, 20th of February, so you can see 27, 28, a very short, fast succession of events. The decree of the Reich president, this was for the protection of the nation and the state. So, of course, immediately after this kind of events, you have protection in place. You have people in power coming with laws immediately, because they need to do something immediately to calm the population and everything else. Hindenburg suspended all civil rights. I told you in the beginning of our lessons that Hindenburg was really not the kind of democratic guy. He was just very, very similar with Hitler, a nationalistic guy. He was not so extremist as Hitler, but it was not really an open-minded Democrat or liberal, okay? So nothing like that. People could be held indefinitely in protective custody, and that was made obviously for van der Lubbe also, but not only that, you can guess that everything was more than that, okay? And he used to repress the Communist Party through this law. As I said, the Reichstag fire was the beginning of the end. The Reichstag fire and Martin van der Lubbe association with the Communist Party was the beginning of the end for the Communist Party. Next one, few days later, 5th of March 1933, Hitler called elections, and obviously they were on that threshold around 35%, the Nazis, but they started to intimidate opponents, okay? And they won quite a big chunk of the vote, so another around 10%. So they were now at 44% of the vote. Their allies were obviously the Nationalist Party. They gained 8%, just enough, 52%, to pass the laws in the Reichstag, which was the end of democracy as we knew it in Germany. So very good timeline to see how Hitler consolidated his power. So after that, a very, very contested and much loved by Hitler Act on 24th of March 1933, the Enabling Act. In case you won't remember for the exam, Enabling Act, enabling Hitler, obviously, hence the name, enabling him to really dominate life of Germans, and enabling him, most importantly, to pass laws, okay, to issue decrees, to rule by decree without any democratic control from parliament or something like that. So the Reichstag met in the Opera House. Members were intimidated by the SA troops and the SS troops. Obviously, they were now very well developed. We talked about the beginnings last period. This decree, this enabling act, will give Hitler emergency powers. Okay, when you see the government in there, that's Hitler. So gave the government emergency powers to issue decrees and rule without Reichstag for 4 years. Absolutely enough. Germany was far away in the dictatorship in 1937. So Enabling Act was another huge important stepstone in consolidating this dictatorship that Hitler was building. It's like a manual of building a dictatorship. I will, at some point, I will do my doctoral studies, and that's going to be my work, my research, how to survive a dictatorship. And I will start, of course, with the example of Romania, and I will start with how this dictatorship arrived and how it was consolidated, and then, of course, all the substance of the thesis. 7th of April 1933, which was again 2 weeks after this Enabling Act, the law for restoration of civil service, very important, because if you want to address a big problem, I mean, if you want to change the system of the country to transform it in a dictatorship, you have to actually have a very strong administration apparatus. And it was a combination of that. Hitler liked to do things like kind of like 2-in-1. For example, he fixed the problem of unemployment by giving work to people to rebuild the army and military capability of Germany. So 2-in-1. In here, he wanted to have a good administration, but also he wanted to pull out all the Jews from the specific jobs. So a double dip stuff. Okay, so it was a law for restoration of the professional civil service, a very fancy, strange, nice collection of words. It was the first anti-Jewish measure, clearly stating that the Jews and other aliens, look at that. You think that we talk about aliens from another galaxy, but aliens were very well defined, and we're going to see that later on in Hitler's perspective. So Jews and other aliens were purged from the administration, from the courts of law, from schools, positions of power in schools, not teachers immediately, and universities. And so look at that, all over the place, all over the spectrum, Jews were excluded, banished, demoted, whatever you call it. So that was the law for restoration. Look at that. So everything is for the state, for restoration, for whatever, stuff like that. Next, let's see what was next. 1st of May, look at that, 7th of April, 1st of May, May Day holiday. That sounds very cool, May Day. May Day for Germany, something bad is happening. But no, International Labor Day, as we know, that's a free day in many countries. Oh, no, not in New Zealand. New Zealand doesn't have that. It's okay. International Labor Day was made a public holiday. And as a special gift, and you will read the gift with quotation marks, as a special gift, the day after trades union offices were abolished. All the trades were abolished, actually. Very soon Hitler will have a law for these specific things. He didn't need unions and stuff. In a dictatorship. You don't have syndicates and unions to fight for the rights of the people. You don't need that. The big daddy is doing everything for you. So look at that. He made a public holiday on 1st of May 1933, but the day immediately after he banished all the trade union offices, which means that he decapitated the union movement, which is interesting. Decapitated, maybe you'll understand the word. Capita means head in Latin. You can say beheaded. Yeah, he beheaded this octopus, which is working towards the rights of the people, you know. Good. 14th of July, so why was that? 2 months after this was the end. There is a song in the Doors band. You don't know this band, but that's okay. Nobody's perfect. The Doors, a very, very big band. This is the end, my friend. That's the song. So this is the end for Germany as we know it. Germany with pluralistic democracy with many parties and stuff like that. Germany became a one-party state because there was a law against the formation of new parties. The moment you see this in any country, that's the beginning of a dictatorship. Only one party. That's why when people are asking me about China, China is absolutely clearly a dictatorship. It doesn't matter if it's a strong state. It doesn't matter if they have, money, dominate the world, whatever. China is a dictatorship. You cannot have only one party. You cannot have only people thinking in one way. I come from that. My roots were, cultivated, planted in communism. So I know that. So the moment Germany became a one-party state, that was the end, 14th of July. So look at that. From January to July, half a year, already Germany on the way to become a very cool dictatorship. Next one, 12th of November, In 1933, new elections were held. Again, Hitler wanted to consolidate that power through numbers. And look at that beauty. Even the Communist Party will be jealous with this number. Nazi Party won 92% of the vote. My question is, what was the other 8%? But of course, we know the answer because there were no other parties. There were probably people not coming or whatever, not voting or canceling the ballot. Anyway, 12th of November, 1933, Nazi Party with 92% of the vote. We think we know what was happening in there. That's clearly a dictatorship. Not on the paper, but clearly a dictatorship. January next year, 1 year after Hitler was appointed Chancellor, he decreed a law for reconstruction of the state. Look at that, reconstruction of the state. I mean, everything is about the state. What does it mean? Everything is about the state. Who can tell me what is that in one word?
Everything is about Germany.
Yes, but one word, key word. What's the ideology of this state? Everything about the state. State first. That's
nationalism.
Fascism. Okay? Fascism. All of them are correct. Everything about Germany, patriotism, nationalism, but basically that's the fascist Germany. So fascism, remember boys, when we discuss about that, everything is the state, okay? And I think I can recognize my musical ear, recognize Liam in there. Welcome, Liam, and I can hear you now. Awesome. Okay, so now, January 1934, state governments overthrown and replaced by Nazi governors. We're going to talk about the institution of a Gauleiter. It's a very interesting one. So there were Nazi leaders in specific positions of power, the most important places being the leaders of these regions. Okay, so let's say Bavaria, they will have a Gauleiter and so on. They were, if I'm correct, I'm not mistaken, there will be over 40, I think 42 Gauleiters. We'll discuss about this later, okay? So a very important specific notion. Oh my God, you'll be so well prepared for the next years in AS and A level. It doesn't feel right, I'm not teaching you in the next levels. Oh my God, I'm gonna do something about that. Okay, next. So this law was actually a very important law to consolidate power on the local level. And if you later on you will discuss about Stalin in year 13, and you will see that he did exactly the same thing. He started with administrating, creating the apparatus, okay, the administrative clerical positions, to actually record all this stuff and do it in a proper way. And then he created regional Soviets, the so-called Soviets, all over, and he did the same thing. So basically, as I said before, of course, you cannot, you have to be very careful when you write this in your exam, but basically, as I said before, many times in the class, Nazism, fascism, and communism performed by Stalin, Stalinism, they were pretty similar, absolutely similar. I mean, even the Nazi state was a welfare state for a while and so on. And so very, very, very similar in many aspects, especially in the administrative, organizational, and, you know, the way they conducted their affairs. Next is a night where they started to sharpen the knives. I'm joking. 30th of June, the night of the long knives. We're going to talk about that in a separate lesson. What happened there in a short synopsis. Hitler He was aware that Ernest Röhm, the leader of the Sturmabteilung, he wants his job. I don't even know which one would have been better. I think Hitler was better in that respect. Röhm was a brute, and Röhm was like Stalin, really, and Hitler was more like, let's say, like Lenin, not Trotsky. So Hitler was better than Röhm, in my opinion, if I can say that. But anyway, he decided that he needs to, side with the army. There was a big discussion in the interior of the circles of power in Germany. Who's most important? SA started to become prominent. SA wanted, Sturmabteilung wanted to take over the army, and the generals in the army were extremely unhappy with this move. They hated Röhm, and obviously Hitler was in a huge dilemma. What should I do? Should I actually rely on the SA, which has a very strong leader, which most probably wants to become the Führer instead of me? Or should I side with the army, which was not really very prepared or very strong, but it was a traditional conservative ally that can be modeled after his needs? And obviously he sided with the army, which was kind of a very, very smart move from Hitler. And obviously with the help of SS, which was his Praetorian Guard, okay, he managed to, use the element of surprise and arrested 300 leaders and killed them in a very Stalinistic way, if I may say so. A purge, okay, that's exactly what it was, including Ernest Röhm, including von Schleicher. All the people who can say something against him, they've been killed. And of course, there was a show of power, and then there was kind of a moment for everyone, a moment to sit back and think again when they want to say something against Hitler. So SS shot many SA leaders and others seen as a threat between these people, Ernest Röhm and von Schleicher, the politician. Now look at that. This was the last kind of like the cherish on the cake. On 2nd of August 1934, the war-decorated hero, the hero of the country. I mean, I have my doubts in such a hyperbolization, but nevertheless, he was the hero of the country. President Hindenburg died, and Hitler became Führer. Again, about Führer, in year 13, you learn we have two PowerPoints, each of the PowerPoint 200 slides in terms of information about the Führer principle and everything else. But coming back to this, Führer was simple Chancellor and President, a kind of a Napoleonic thing when he was the Emperor and the President in the same time. He was de facto the real leader of the entire country, and Germany was now a dictatorship. So you can see now how all these events, this timeline, will show you how Hitler consolidated power from the moment he started in that office to the moment he became Führer. 1.5 years approximately, a little bit more, but really quite a good manual of how to become a dictator. I'm waiting for some of your feedback about this, and I'll take you one by one and ask you. So, Liam, what do you think about this? About these steps? What do you think?
Well, I think I saw it
How fast this was happening, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, in the space of less than 2 years, it was
Yes.
Hitler was appointed Chancellor of the Führer. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, exactly. So that was really, that shows actually that the entire um, system, the entire country was controlled somehow. So I think very important for this specific takeover of Germany was the fact that they controlled every aspect of life through intimidation. So a very important role for the SA and SS. I think that was one of the reasons because you can see that people won't do this if they won't be forced. Okay, so even this kind of jump from 35, 37% to 92, that's unheard of. No matter how many Reichstags will burn, that's unheard of and very difficult to believe. Shay, what do you think about this? About the entire thing? How Hitler consolidated his power? Give me something.
I think it was all just very meticulously planned, and
Yes.
had it. He kind of had it every single stage mapped out perfectly from the start, and then yeah.
It's very good, very excellent observation. Very good, meticulous plan. You can see the Hitler's ability to actually jump in the boat of which will help him. Okay, so oh, the Reichstag is on fire. Let's jump on that boat and exploit what happened in there. Let's blame it on someone. Who was there? Oh, communists. Beautiful. Let's blame it on the communists. Okay, I think in a way he was right. It was obvious that communists will oppose Nazis, and they will do whatever they will like. I mean, I don't want to say that the communists were treated incorrectly on something. Probably they wanted the Reichstag to be burned and stuff, but not like that, because this was a blown in their image, okay, in front of other people. So I won't say that the communists were angels. No way, Jose. They will have their own ideas about how to create a communist state in there. But yeah, I'm just saying that Hitler actually exploited this opportunity. What do you think, Josh, about all this stuff?
I think from like the beginning, since the Reichstag fire, like he took the opportunity like straight away. He just pounced on and took advantage.
Yes.
And then from then, like as Shay said, it was all planned out perfectly.
Yeah, it looks like excellent observation. It looks like everything was made, like it's almost like a manual. Okay, so it's like if we want to, I don't know, do something, we plan a concert. We're gonna go to a concert and on a rest home on 17. So you have to actually start from the beginning. Okay, so there is someone who wants to have this concert. Yes, we go. I sent emails. Then I started to call people, and then so you should be very organized. Then I rented the van. Then I talked to the boys. Then we made a repertoire, and everything else is put in place to have this concert, which will be a half an hour, okay? And but it's a good idea and a good thing to do. So same here. Look at this. It was so planned. Very, very well, Josh. That was good observation. Archie, what do you think about this?
I think it was like an early diagnosis of the Nazis' future sort of movements. It's all about speed, like
yes.
And
it's a blitzkrieg. It's a blitzkrieg.
Yeah, exactly. Like blitzkrieg. You see later on we have blitzkrieg, really efficient and fast military tactics, and it shows their sort of attitude. Hitler's focus was so powerful. It's like he took advantage of everything.
Very, very good, Archie. Thank you. That's such a good metaphor. This was a blitzkrieg manual takeover of a country, which was ready to jump in that boat of fascism and nationalism, as you said, Liam. So all that patriotism stuff, it's unbelievable, and you can see traits of these things in taking over in nowadays of countries that become dictatorships. So like you can see Venezuela, Brazil, it's kind of, they use here and there bits and pieces, but of course you cannot compare Bolsonaro with Hitler. Hitler was probably 20 times smarter than Bolsonaro or whatever, Hugo Chavez or who's in there in Venezuela. Anyway, good, excellent. This is such a good and rewarding lesson. So we go to the next one, which is the consolidation of power, and we go and look into this consolidation of power step by step with a little bit more details about what happened in this period. So we've seen the timeline, and now we have to dissecate each of these events. It's not too much to add to this information. In your brain, you know already that there were some specific steps that they took. They addressed some specific things which are very important in a takeover. So you address what's your enemy. So you have to address who's going to help you in power. So that was the Knight of the Long Knives, helping with that. Then you address the capability of the system to absorb all your ideas and everything. So they done the law of the service, civil service, professional civil service law. And then you address who do you want to remove from that, and then start with communists and everything, and then end up with anti-Jewish laws and consolidation of power. How can you actually do that? You stop the parties from, being part in a democratic life. You ban them, then you ban the unions, and then you do everything step by step, easy. So we go to this lesson. The first thing is, I love this. This is such a good representation. Do you know what this represents? Can you guess? What do you think?
Knight of the Long Knives?
Yes, exactly. That's the Knight of the Long Knives. You can see the, hopefully you can see my mouse in here. So you can see the guy in here, which is a guy who's hiding behind Hitler. This is a Viking, which will be, it's a very nice caricature because you can see the Viking with the spear, and then he has a pistol. Hitler very upset on the Sturmabteilung stormtroopers. You can see the symbol of power in here, which is the swastika, and Hitler being extremely upset. The cadavers, the corpses of their leaders. So he's in a position of power. You can see in here the army. So this kind of unknown, no-face soldiers. Okay, they were not so important like the SA and like the SS, but they were there to protect. Okay, and these people petrified by Hitler, who's so furious. You can see his face, and the pistol that suggests with the smoke that suggests that he just used that to kill these people. So a very nice metaphor to discuss the Knight of the Long Knives. Now, being the Chancellor, when he became Chancellor of Germany, again, boys, you have access to this. So you can just write bullet points and stuff. You don't have to write the entire thing. I mean, that would be nice, but you can do it later. You know how much space to leave. You have access to this. It's already there on OneNote and SlideShare and everywhere. So no problems, okay? So when Hitler became Chancellor of Germany, his influence was limited on account of the agreement between Hindenburg and von Papen. Obviously, we know that they tried to just make him, let's put Hitler in there. Let's watch, with the popcorn and the 3D glasses, let's watch how he's breaking his neck, not fixing Germany as he promised, and then we're going to get rid of him and we'll be in power forever. Big mistake, and a sort of naivety, and very naive to believe that Hitler, who was prepared all his life for this moment, he will actually do the same mistake he did during the Munich Putsch. Hitler certainly believed that he will take power through democratic means. He waited for this moment, and he didn't repeat the mistakes during the Munich Putsch. You have to understand that I'm teaching this with passion, and is no admiration for Hitler whatsoever. It's just, you know, a kind of trying to understand and make you understand how Hitler outsmarted these people. And obviously he did very, very, very bad things afterwards. And of course you cannot like what he did. He was an idiot, basically, and not really a kind of a human being. But in taking power and in convincing Germans to do things, and in what he did in the beginning for Germany, he was exponential for this country. So we have to acknowledge and look at these things rationally, like historians. These things happened, why they happened, what he did to actually make them happen. So he was just another head of yet another Weimar coalition government. Look at that. So that will actually, I think that will explain. That's why it's written a little bit awkwardly, but I think that will comprise everything. He was just another head of government of yet another Weimar coalition government. There were so many different coalition governments. And von Papen and Hindenburg, they say, yeah, whatever. He's gonna break his neck. That's okay. Don't worry. Hindenburg, though, with big caution. So he didn't like Hitler. As I said in the previous lesson yesterday, he was the vulgar little corporal. That was his opinion about Hitler, obviously coming from the fact that he was a general during the World War I, and Hitler was just a corporal going, delivering messages from here to there. He was not really the Aryan figure. Hitler didn't look like an Aryan whatsoever, so Hindenburg being quite mean with Hitler and pointing out towards two of his big problems, that he was not really an important figure in World War I, despite the medals and everything for bravery, and also he was not looking like an Aryan, and he started to look into his defects, which is not really nice to do when you talk about someone. First stage in the process, calling for general election. We talk about that 5th of March. So what we do now, it's a little bit expanding that timeline and putting some meat on the bone, some tofu on the bones. Okay. The election is supposed to be free and peaceful. Yeah, right. Police and Sturmabteilung stormtroopers were extremely violent against communists, like they were literally beat communists everywhere. They will go over their meetings, rallies, and they will start beating everyone with no discrimination. They will literally be extremely violent, like, you know, unleash the beasts. That was the kind of the, you know, the idea. And so obviously, if you do that in many places in Germany, people will see that, people will become aware, people will become scared and intimidated. It's not a thing you should treat lightly, because communists were killed on the streets, okay, killed, beaten to death, or killed literally with pistols, okay? So they'll say, oh, you know what, I'm a communist, I have communist ideas, but I don't really want to die, so it's better I will stay home and not show off as a communist, or stuff like that. So Hitler persuaded Hindenburg to issue an emergency decree, which suspended personal freedoms and increased police powers. Obviously, it was, of course, on Hindenburg's liking. He liked that. he liked the idea. What the hell is this? Let's stop too much democracy. Too much democracy is not good. So remember, this was the beginning of the measures to come in place and consolidate this dictatorship until the dictatorship was declared. Okay, when Hindenburg died and Hitler took over everything, all the positions of power, unopposed, obviously, unchallenged, obviously again. So being the Chancellor was a great opportunity for Hitler. Unfortunately for him, and fortunately for everyone else on this planet, his amazing Third Reich, which was supposed to last for 1,000 years, 1 millennia, lasted only for 12 years, which is interesting. 12 difficult years with many, people that died. If you look into these 12 years, they were not as planned as his coming to power was planned, if you understand me. In the last part of these years, Hitler started to go crazy, nuts, and he started to make mistakes. If you have, I don't know, a group of friends that tell you that you are God, you are so good, you are like God, you are like God, you are like God, non-stop, you will end up believing that you are God, because it's in the human nature. And Hitler, went kind of crazy, okay, with this thing. Unfortunately, on the expense of so many people. Now, look at this beautiful. Who wants to explain to me what is this? This is such a good cartoon. I love it. Okay, Shay, can you explain to me what can you see in here?
Well, there's a fire underneath one of the bottom windows. And there's
Yes.
a little. Is that Hitler on the pathway with a Nazi suitcase?
Yes, that's Hitler. Yeah, you can see the mustache and his strange hairstyle.
And then there's the buildings, the League of Nations building, and you can see all the people looking out, and Hitler's just started. Basically, it's saying Hitler's just started. The idea of the cartoon is that Hitler's started a fire underneath the League of Nations, but in actual fact, that's kind of representing what he's going to do in terms of him going to war, and he's kind of upset the balance of power.
Yes, excellent. And also, this was the first thing he did. He took Germany out of the League of Nations. Germany, remember, through the efforts of Gustav Stresemann, Germany was there in the League of Nations, and he just pulled out from the League of Nations immediately. He was in a way like Donald Trump with the Paris climate change and all that stuff, nuclear discussions with Iran, pulling everything out and isolating himself. And actually the fire will suggest that if the Reichstag fire worked to blame the communists and everything, why not through the League of Nations? So I'm going to burn all of them and I'm going to just become the leader of the entire planet. So that was actually the message. A very, very, very good cartoon representing this. You have to understand, boys, that back in that time, there was not too much of the use of the radio. There was radio, but not too much of the use of that. Because there was not so spread, not many people will have that, but heaps of people, all the people will read the newspapers, and in the newspapers they will have this kind of cartoons. This was actually what you will discuss. Nowadays you look on the internet and you say, have you seen what they done, I don't know, in Bolivia, bus collapsed and many people died, and oh, that's such a big tragedy, and you'll discuss about that. They will discuss around this kind of cartoons. Of course, this was a funny cartoon. So people will be, this will be your discussion around the water cooler, as they call it. Of course, they didn't have water cooler in Germany. They didn't need that because Hitler will do everything. So the Reichstag fire, this guy in the right is the the famous van der Lubbe. On the evening of 27th of February, the Reichstag building burned down. It was quite an image. There are images with this on the internet. I'm going to show you the next one. This is the one. Look like that, completely destroyed. Very emotional for these people, extremely emotional for Germany. Imagine that you see tomorrow, God help us, hopefully not, but if you see tomorrow the beehive burning like that and going down, of course, the next day, our Prime Minister, Jacinda Ardern, will come out and say something, and she will take measures immediately. So, why? Because it's an emotional thing, because that Reichstag, what does this Reichstag represent for Germany? Liam, can you tell us?
The democracy.
Yes, the democracy, exactly, excellent, and a symbol of the power of the nation, isn't it? So really, really strong message. So of course this was extremely emotional, and of course Hitler, who was a smart and very, how should I say that, sneaky, conniving politician, he knew that this is the perfect opportunity for him. Of course, together with the depression and everything else, when you want to transform your rhetoric in a populist rhetoric, that then is very easy if you have some kind of thing. As I said yesterday, it is very, it will be very unlikely that Hitler will take power in such a manner without people's will if the communists and the Jews were not there in Germany. So which one to blame then? I mean, okay, Nazi party, so what? You don't have communists to blame, you don't have Jews to blame. What else? They won't be so spectacular, it won't be so efficient, okay? On the other hand, if you have this to blame, oh man, that's a juicy thing. I mean, you can say whatever, you can blame them, you can arrest them, you can show them off. So you can understand the dynamic in there. So coming back to this, the Dutch communist, of course, Dutch and communist, Liam will smile now. Marinus van der Lubbe was arrested in the Reichstag grounds and charged with starting the fire. I like the fact that he is presented here in the photo with, I think that's a matchsticks pack, so that's very suggestive, okay. Hitler immediately claimed that this is a proof of communist plot against the state. Who won't do that? I will do that if I will be instead of Hitler, okay, or any other leader, in order to actually get, you know, some votes. You've seen our politicians, it's a ridiculous image. I hate that image when you see politicians smiling, falsely smiling, obviously, and keeping all the kids in their, getting the kids and, you know, like trying to look human, you know, when we know that they don't care too much about these things, and the only thing is to get votes. And we know that. I mean, if you believe all their things like absolute truth, you are naive again. So he persuaded Hindenburg to issue an emergency decree which suspended, obviously, personal freedom and increased police powers, and not only police, I would say SS, SA, and so on. Police was at that point in time totally subordinated to SA and SS, and yeah, it wasn't really specific, powerful, strong service, okay, which is normally police. He used the opportunity to start a public scare about the alleged communist threat. You can see that it's alleged, and probably Marinus van der Lubbe did that, but we don't know as a fact. And this is just Nazis' account, which is regarded with circumspection, precaution. Okay, so Yeah, they said that, yes, this guy actually acknowledged and everything, but as the Kiwi will put this in a very nice series of interjection, yeah, nah, it was a little bit, you know, kind of like forced, this thing, and it looked like, you know, just a public scare, okay, towards the communists. So this is what happened. What happened after this? Hitler was delighted by what happened, obviously, absolutely delighted. He was actually smiling in many occasions around that period of time, because this was the evidence of what he was actually perorating, telling people non-stop again and again, communists, they are a threat, whatever. And he actually wanted to transmit the next step. It's not enough to say, oh, this is a communist and the communists did that. No, the communists were trying to seize power by violence and flames and revolution and everything else, which probably the communists will do later on, I don't know, because they love that too. Again, communists were not far away from the Nazis in terms of the extremist views and what they can do to achieve their target. I don't think they were too, you know, kind of nice. And also, I think that the communists will do exactly the same, will suspend civil liberties, will ban everything but their party and so on. So, and in terms of violence, let's stop for a while and look into what Communist Party did under Stalin in the periods of the 30s, in the time of the Great Purge, and it's unbelievable, unbelievable. I mean, Hitler was a small child, a small kid, comparing with what Stalin did in that time to his own people. I mean, that's a discussion for another another time and another level, but I hope you're going to have that discussion with me or with other teachers, and you'll understand the full image of what communists did in many countries. So Hitler was not alone in his crazy ideas and stuff. Now, communists, obviously, in that time, I'm not so sure that the communists tried to seize power by violent revolution, and that's why they started the Reichstag fire. It was probably a lonely wolf thing, and it happened, but I should say that was not deliberate to add more fuel to the fire, because communists were, you have to remember, they were really desperate and scared at some point. They didn't have this unity because they didn't have that idea. Okay, you have to understand why communists didn't succeed in Germany, because they didn't have that nationalism. The Nazis, they have this vehicle. It's an extraordinary vehicle to have nationalism, patriotism on your side. Okay, and if you embark in that vehicle, you can do whatever you like. You can manipulate, you can propagate your ideas, and you can take over. Communists, they were not very organized. They didn't receive too much of help from other communist countries, from the mother country, mothership, Mother Russia. And so because of that, they didn't succeed. But it's a very interesting discussion, this one. I've actually have a series of lectures from Columbia University, beautiful lectures from a teacher who's obviously very into the Cold War and communism, and they are absolutely amazing, explaining how the Cold War evolved and explaining what happened in Russia. Very, very cool things, and probably I will give them to you at some point. I don't want to kind of mix up the message in your head right now, so we stick to Hitler and our Nazi boys in here. So Hitler used the event to kind of arrest tons of communists, like 4,000 leading communists were arrested because they had to be stopped. Okay, they had to. He wanted to actually fix the problem. When he saw this, he saw the opportunity to fix the problem of communism, to fix in his way, obviously, to destroy them. And he persuaded Hindenburg. It was easy to persuade. He showed a picture of the Reichstag fire to Hindenburg, and Hindenburg was furious. And he didn't think straight, and he said, like, he was a kind of like Tony Blair and George Bush attacking Iraq because Saddam Hussein has a weapon of mass destruction, and he didn't. But nevertheless, that was a response to many other things that happened, and we know that. So he didn't kind of think that straight, Hindenburg, and he caved for that. He signed a decree for the protection of the people and the state. We've seen that in the timeline. And Hitler used the event to prevent Nazi opponents from holding public meetings. That famous, cutting of the civil liberties, which will include holding public meetings, and to arrest more communists. And the fire was very convenient, obviously, for the Nazis for many reasons. But some historians have suggested that they had the fire started themselves. So basically, that Nazis were actually they put the fire in there. This will actually send you back to the cartoon that Shay kind of commented very well. So that's actually what some historians believe. But of course, we cannot say that. We can stick to the facts we know. It's more likely that this guy, Marinus Vardenloop, put the fire. I think that he didn't know what he's gonna start, and he was kind of a victim of, of the times. And I don't think he was very animated by communist ideology, and he was not looking like a communist Tavaritsky, okay, a communist activist, whose communist activists will be ferocious, will be very strong and very powerful. Look at Stalin. Stalin is the perfect one. Lenin is the perfect one. Marinus Vardenloop looks like someone who was teleported there, and he doesn't know what he was doing and stuff like that. A little bit more about this. There is no validated and objective evidence to suggest that Nazis did that. But it remains very, very doubtful and very unclear that van der Lubbe was part of a communist conspiracy. He always denied that the communists are involved. He said that he put the fire. He acknowledged that, and obviously he was executed. Such a mistake, such a strange event, but this event was the perfect thing for that happened for the Nazis. I want to take a small break now and ask you, okay, just a second, and ask you now, what do you think about this, the implications of this Reichstag fire? Liam, what do you think?
Yeah, I just want to go back to what you said. I don't think you realise the one that's the Dutch one. I don't think the implications along with it.
Yeah, good, great. Shay, what do you think?
I don't know. I think it was that was one thing that Hitler didn't plan, but it just served as a really good opportunity for him to just capitalize.
Yes, and he capitalized. That's a good word. And Liam was right. So it's like it's a very strange event which served Hitler amazingly. I mean, he would have been a stupid dictator to be to leave this unexploited? What do you think, Josh? What do you think about? Well, a question to you will be: what do you think about the way this incident happened? I mean, we don't know the entire thing because that's not relevant. But do you think that this guy was capable to actually put the fire and set the entire building in fire? I mean, I think you need Osama bin Laden's expertise to do that. It looked, I don't know. It's something strange in there. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm not too sure.
But what do you think about the implications of this? So how Hitler used that? That's the most important part.
Yeah, he was just prepared to take any opportunity, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
That came, and then from then, of course, since what's it called? Where am I? That the government, Reichstag was burned, that they need to he was able to persuade Hindenburg to issue the
decree. Yeah.
Then that really came because of the Reichstag, and that would have led to him being able to put through all these laws and stuff.
Yes. So that was a very, very perfect help for him, isn't it?
Yeah.
Excellent. Well done, Josh. Archie, give us your opinion about Reichstag fire and the implications of this.
Well, actually, I remember reading somewhere that Goering implied he had a hand in starting the fire.
Yes,
and
you're gonna read this later on. Yes,
it's quite interesting. But I definitely think that it was an important tactic, maybe, and if the Nazis had a hand in it, it was a very important tactic. Otherwise, if it was the communist Lübbe, it was definitely about efficiency and taking the opportunities and exploiting it as much as you can.
Yes, so attaching the idea, excellent, Archie, attaching the idea of communists did it to the actual fire through such a small element like van der Lubbe will be the communists who did this in the name of the Communist Party to start a revolution. It was so forced, but it worked so well. I mean, just to mention the word communist related to that was like enraging for heaps of people in Germany. And all these people will jump immediately, no questions asked in Hitler's boat. And it's very difficult to convince them afterwards that that didn't happen, especially when van der Lubbe said that he denied the connection with the Communist Party, but it was too late, in my opinion, and it was quite an interesting story. Okay, so let's finish with the last part. Just a little bit more, not too much. We aim for 10:30. Actually, it's a very good lesson. I'm very happy with the way the lesson is going. And I hope you understand more now. And it's very important to understand this part because this is going to be an exam no matter what, in 2 papers, in 2 exams. And you need to understand, now I know that you understand perfectly what happened and all the implications and all the steps and all the tactics and everything. So I guess this way of explaining things will actually help you to get the best mark. You know, I am very, very interested in you loving history and liking the subject, and it's impossible not to like this subject because it's a long one and it's a vast one and with many bits and pieces and heaps of implications. But I'm more interested in you getting a very good mark that will set you for a boost of confidence for the next ASNA level, and it's good for you to get good marks, and I can wait to go to that moment to read your marks. That will be on 21st of January next year. I'm going to be a happy teacher at that point, or unhappy, we'll see. Most likely happy. So look at this, a British cartoon from the time of the 1933 Reichstag election. It's a beautiful one. If you'll remove this from here, the symbol of the Nazi state and whatever, that's the symbol of the old German empire, and you put a hammer and a sickle, so the communist symbols, it won't be any difference. That was it in communism, though a communist leader won't have the pistol and the knife, because people will go because they love communism in there and vote. Okay, so he will just look as a big daddy, of course, 4 or 5 times taller than the normal people, because that's a communist leader. I forgot to tell you that they were 20 meters high and we were just normal height. And obviously, this shows that Reichstag election were manipulated by Hitler and by these games. Now, you have some activities in here, and I'm gonna ask you, because you're gonna have this PowerPoint in there. I'm gonna ask you if you can do this. We're gonna read this, and Archie Archie was anticipating this. He anticipated this. I'm going to ask you now, actually, how useful is the source as evidence of Nazi involvement in the Reichstag fire? How useful is the source? So let's read this. I'm going to read this for you. And then I'm going to ask you if you think it's an evidence and how useful it is. So in 1945, General Franz Halder recalled how Hermann Göring, one of the leading Nazis at that point, and again, by the way, we're going to talk about this in the next lessons. We have an amazing lesson, you're going to love it, with the main Nazi leaders and about their life. How Göring had claimed responsibility for the Reichstag fire. Göring later denied making any such statement during his evidence to the Nuremberg trials, obviously, how he would acknowledge it. This extract has been taken from Germany 1918 to 1945, Shepard and Lacey, published in 1997, at a luncheon on the birthday of the Führer in 1942. The conversation turned to the topic of the Reichstag building. I heard with my own ears when Göring interrupted the conversation and shouted, "The only one who really knows about the Reichstag is I, because I set it on fire." Now, interesting, isn't it? I set it on fire. What do you think, boys? I need only one opinion of one of you. So tell me, Archie, what do you think about this?
Considering Göring's attitude, he's quite a boastful sort of man, and I think it's probably not a very accurate sort of statement to make.
I will not trust this. Really.
Yeah. I will.
Yes. Okay, so Liam, what do you think in terms of percentage? How much do you trust Göring?
I mean, like, for all we know, he could have just been joking. Yeah, I mean, like, if I make a small joke, I don't expect it to be brought up in an international court of law.
Yes.
Yes. I mean, it's coming from obviously what seems to be probably a Nazi general. Yeah, Franz Halder.
Yes. Exactly.
I mean, for all we know, firstly, the general could be just trying to save his own ass.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And anyway, you're right. So this cannot be brought in the public arena. But remember, they try to actually gather as many as information as they can gather in terms of like, getting something against these people, something real, something palpable. Okay, on the paper. I mean, some evidence. Okay, so
this one.
Yes, but again, as you said and Archie said, you cannot really trust. So if it's useful, yeah, maybe the part of usefulness will be like Nazis were involved in Reichstag fire. So that will be a good point. Okay, good. So activity number 2. summarize in one paragraph, why was Hitler so pleased by the Reichstag fire? That's easy for you, you can do that. We go to the general election of 5th of March 1933, and we're going to end up with this. Nazis obviously control the police and the media. We're going to talk extensively about this, the control of these mass spreading information outlets or vehicles was extremely important, okay? Police was not mass spreading information, but that was the armed hand of the regime, okay? They will actually control all the disobedience and stuff like that. Obviously, police was under the control of the SS. They were not like a real entity. They were just controlled and, you know, in the working for the Nazis. So Hitler was hoping to achieve at least half of the votes in the incoming election. This would enable him to lead without any other coalition partners, which would be a weaker government. It didn't happen. Actually, the result of the vote was not 44%, but 43.9%. And that was not enough. And of course, 8% from the nationalist coalition partner will be enough to reach 52, 51.9. And he needed the support of these nationalists. He needed the support of these people. So Hitler was quite, you know, kind of unhappy with the result of these elections, very unhappy. But again, he did well, considering that he wanted to take power and he wanted to control Germany and to become the dictator and to do whatever he would like. Basically, if you think of Hitler, he was animated by good intentions for his country. He was a hero of the country for a period of time, and then he transformed himself in a menace for the country. And then even this generation of Germans, you know, is very, very ashamed to talk about what Hitler did and how Germans are regarded everywhere. You know, with caution and looking towards the past, which is it's a very interesting thing. I mean, the Germans from nowadays, they don't have anything to do with that, but they still feel this, the pressure of the past, okay?